nudging it over. Oh boy. Cool. Or just people that haven't chatted, right? Oh wait, where do you see? Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our live demo. This is first time doing this for everybody here on the team, myself included. So go easy on us. So what we're going to be doing here today, I think a lot of you probably came over here from our Discord or from people that referred you here. What we're going to be doing here today is talking a little bit about Moonbeast. And then we're also going to be showing a very, very early look at the game. And this is not pre-production, but it's it's earlier than probably most people get to see a game. A lot of the art is, temporary placeholder. We've been working on this thing for a while now, and we're proud enough of it to be able to show it off and sort of get some impressions, but it's very early. Joining me via voice here, we've got some of the team that are in through Discord. Peter Hu, my co-founder, is here, and he's going to be primarily reading your comments and answering your questions and sort of directing while I play the demo. Eric Schaefer is here also. I don't think he's going to be talking too much, but he's here lurking on the forums, and we've got some of the other folks on the team too. Peter, can you say a word just to make sure that this is hooked up properly?
Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us, and man, super excited to show you what we have so far.
Yeah, we're pumped. We believe that the people here, this is our devoted community, folks that we already know a little bit. A lot of you know a little bit about what we're doing from our Reddit and from our Discord. Incidentally, we have the links to both of those on our Twitch channel, so feel free to sign up for Discord and for Reddit to get ongoing updates. So a little bit of an introduction for those of you that don't know. We are a lot of ex-Blizzard North folks. I met Peter Hu there at Blizzard North working on Diablo 2. We both came specifically to work on Diablo 2. We had both played Diablo 1, and it was a transformative game for us. And there we met Eric Schaefer and some of the other folks. Well, I guess Eric is the only one that's with us now that I met at that time. And Peter and I started Moonbeast a little over a year ago, and then Eric joined us last year, and we're really excited to be leading the team. We're still a small team. A lot of us have worked together at Blizzard North and at Flagship Studios. Peter and Eric obviously worked together on the Torchlight games. So we've been making ARPGs our whole careers. This is something that we really believe in. We really love. We were there very early on in the genres. In the genre, you could argue that Eric was one of the inventors of the ARPG genre, and we just can't seem to get enough of it. So we're hoping to bring some new things to the table, and we'll be showing off some of that. And we are bringing a lot of new things to the table, and it's going to be familiar, hopefully, but also different. Yeah, I'm pretty much ready to go. Peter, do you want to say anything before we switch over to show what we're working on?
Go.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, let's see if this works here. Okay. So we don't have a name for it yet, but this is our game. It's nighttime right now. We have a day and night cycle. It'll turn day here pretty shortly. Everything here is procedurally generated. That's one of the things that's familiar but yet different. Diablo 2 and Diablo 1 were procedurally generated. ARPGs generally have moved more towards kind of the set piece paradigm, less wholesale procedural generation. But this is really procedurally generated on a granular level. So if you think about a game like Minecraft or Terraria, the world is made out of voxels, but we put this really beautiful skin on it. So that's not the first thing that you see when you jump in. It's not like, oh, it's a block world. But yeah, everything is deformable in real time. You'd probably say that this will be a multiplayer game. It is a multiplayer game. We'll be demoing that later. Client server. Play single player, or you can play multiplayer. A lot of flexibility. You can see here as they're throwing grenades, leaving little divots in the ground. And I've got a skill here I'll equip in a second that will also blow things up.
Phil, turn down the SFX volume a little
Sure,
bit.
yeah. Tiny taste of meat. Whoa, that's the flame wave. That is not the fireball. So morning is coming. Anybody has any questions, go ahead and chime in. I'm not actively looking at them.
Let us know if Phil's voice is still a little low.
How's my voice sound? A little low, or I can turn it up a little bit?
Saying it's good.
Okay.
Remember, everything, like all the art in this is still placeholder. It's still work in progress. But during development, Eric especially wants to push us to make things look at least semi-good, because it makes us want to play the game more as we're working on it.
Yeah. All right, so this fireball, see, it's removing some of the terrain. Wherever I throw it. This will all be persistent. So one of the things, a lot of our games in the past have been instance-based. So like you come back into the world and it doesn't really save the state of the world between sessions, or it does to varying degrees. We envision a fully persistent game. So the things that you do in the world over the time during the whole course of your game, every battle that you've done, everything that you've built, everything that you've blown up, everything you've destroyed is going to be persistent. So in that sense, it's a very sandbox experience. What's going on here is, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Someone was asking. Yeah, you could totally rebuild. You can create your own terrain, paint biomes. We'll show you all of that in this stream.
Yeah, we've got a really robust editor. One of the things that we believe strongly in is letting people mod the game. A lot of the folks here are from the modding community, Diablo 2 modding community, and we've always really loved modding for these games. Peter was very instrumental in making modding possible for Diablo 2, and we're leaning into that in a big way. We're going to let players mod the experiences, create new content, create new experiences, even new game types. We think this is going to be a really powerful way to innovate the ARPG genre and keep the game alive, keep the game fresh, and let people take the game that we've made and make it into something that feels really unique and special.
So I'll take a minute here to answer a couple of questions that have been asked. Let's see. One of them is there any way we can donate or buy merch to support the studio? And not right at the moment, but if we ever do announce a Kickstarter, please make sure to sign up for our mailing list, join our Discord or Reddit communities, and we'll announce those types of things there. Someone was asking, not all spells affect the terrain, and yeah, that's right. Like, there's definitely some spells that affect the terrain, some spells that don't. When you mod, you're going to be able to build your own spells, and you'll be able to build spells that mod the terrain. And in fact, you can use those spells to make cool editor functions so that you can extend the editor yourself. And then someone asked, will the graphics look considerably different in later development? Yeah, this is really early on. This is all sort of placeholder work in progress. I mean, this is way earlier of a game than what I think most studios would show you. We've only been working on it for a little bit over a year. So everything, all the animations will improve, the UI will definitely improve, and in general, a lot of it will improve. But I think it still looks pretty good, for a fully sort of voxelized Minecrafty world. You can see Phil doing editing and stuff.
One of the things
And then,
I was going to say on that subject, part of the reason we're showing it now is to get people's impressions on, so feel free to chime in, you like it, you don't like it, what you do like about it, what you don't like about it. Because part of this is to get feedback too, not just to hand it over and say, this is what we're building, but this is so early that we really want to involve the community in our build process.
yeah, definitely. Some people will have questions about character development items and stuff like that. Those things are too early. I think we're going to lean a lot on our Diablo 2 roots in terms of character development and items. We're going to innovate on them, of course. We've learned a lot of things working on Torchlight and other ARPGs. So those will all come in later, and we'll do a stream, in the coming months that show off more of those features.
Trying to get this water to flow downhill. It's one of the cool things is that we have this fluid simulation.
Yeah, and actually, there's this entire fluid simulator that Brian Bezic wrote. It's very, very cool for like an ARPG. You'll see lava later. You can have water flow into lava and turn into rock, and there's just sort of a physical simulation going on in this game that I don't think any ARPG has really done before. Certainly not a massively multiplayer one.
Just having the height and the jumping and the verticality is also a new thing for these kinds of games. It's really like like you have games that sort of feel like you can go anywhere, especially in ARPGs. Like, oh, here you can jump down off this cliff, but it's just like a place that you have to walk to and then click a button, and then you'll automatically kind of move down that area or jump across that chasm. So here, we're really like, you can go anywhere, as long as, the only thing you have to worry about is it dangerous? Are you going to get into trouble before you're ready to handle it? But that's part of the idea, that you're going to explore and find different ways of doing things and really, figure it out, figure out how you want to play it instead of only going through it on rails, more or less. So I'm so used to demoing it like that, and it's like, oh, forgot to mention, yeah, you can jump and you can climb and you can go up and down, and anywhere you can see on the screen you can go to.
So the Eric was joking about the loading screens. So the area that Phil is entering now is called the Gloom, and you'll see a ring of mist close in on him as he enters it, and it's because you have a limited time that you can stay in here. There's a fluid simulation for the Gloom, so it can expand and take over the world, and there's you'll find in as you play the game that there's things creating the Gloom. In fact, there are monsters that drag the Gloom out as they explore beyond the Gloom. And part of, in this particular scenario, part of the things that you have to do is figure out a way to turn the world back to green. Yeah, and the entire environment changes, and light cycle and everything else changes, and music changes when Phil enters the Gloom. Yeah, and we definitely plan on supporting both full trading and solo self-found. You can dig. It's kind of a Minecraft world. You can dig down and explore for things. There's things buried down there, and you can go down for quite a ways. And someone was asking how far you can dig and whether or not you'll find things down there.
Yeah, that's really it's kind of just a gameplay balance thing. We're figuring out, how far down is it fun to dig, what are the fun things to do. Designing the engine to be as flexible as possible, though. I am in God mode, which is why I'm not getting killed here by the gloom. I wanted to find one of these parasites. These are the things that are spreading it out. So if I blow a hit up, you'll see that the source of this purple mist goes away. So it's going back to its natural state. And I have another spell here that I can do to boost that along. Little green nova. Also drop these waypoints that are a source of kind of a base for me. It'll heal me when I'm near it, and it also pumps out a little bit of anti-gloom.
And Phil can actually, those things are waypoints that Phil can use, and he can transport himself from place to place using them as well.
Build a little fort around them so that monsters can't just instantly attack them. Yeah, for example, go back here to my home base. This is a kind of mechanic we're messing with right now. When you kill monsters, you get some of their energy, and you can trade it into this thing to sort of increase the anti-gloom properties. A lot of this is still gameplay, is still works in progress. We're mostly focused on the underlying systems and the technology and all the core things that will
Necrolis is
enable us to
asking
build.
whether or not, sorry, Necrolis is asking what the goal is for combat in terms of monster count. And yeah, we'll definitely have larger number of monsters as you progress further into the game. And there'll be large hordes of monsters for you to kill. And there will also, someone is asking, didn't see who, but whether or not there'll be a hardcore mode. There'll definitely be some sort of hardcore mode. And again, remember, this game is fully moddable, so if there's like a mode that we don't have, you'll be able to add it in all likelihood. You'll be able to script the game and create your own missions, create your own game mechanics, and things like that. Initially, we're not going to allow people to upload models and textures because that's just sort of a moderation nightmare for us. But as the game grows, we want to make a system that will eventually allow that. Uh, Someone was asking whether or not you could create a geocaching game where you could bury treasure for other people to find. And yeah, that would be really cool. We would love to see people sort of invent new genres of game um, as part of their modding of this.
You mentioned also that, when we say modding, we're not talking about mods that you have to download and install and you're only running on one of your local games. Like, we want to support mods that are running authoritatively on our server. So, they're official mods. Like, it's scripted mods that are running in the client server architecture. So multiplayer mods, be very easy to, install them and trade them and share them. And you're basically just creating games with with the mods that you've decided you want to put into your game, into your unique world. So it's kind of like an ARPG metaverse. You'll be able to link worlds together, create your own MMO in effect. With deep ARPG gameplay and systems, with all the itemization, and the procedural generation, and the affixes, and loot and classes and skills. And one of the things we found is, like, making ARPGs. A lot of people want to make RPGs. It's one of the first things, like, oh, I'm gonna sign into Roblox, I want to make an RPG, but it's just so difficult. There's so much technology that goes into making an RPG. So many features. One of the hardest, if not the hardest, game genre to make. And so innovation is really stagnant. It's hard for people to, just even dream of creating a game of this complexity. So by letting people have the tools to mod it and really try out different wacky stuff like geocaching, that's an awesome idea, but no publisher would ever build a game like that. So we think that we can't wait to see what other people are going to do with it. One of our selfish motivations for doing this is just see what other people come up with.
So Phil, do you want to take a pause and join the multiplayer server
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
and go into a dungeon, that type of thing. I don't think you've done that yet, so
Okay.
let's do that.
Peter will keep talking. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna switch over to join a multiplayer game.
I think someone was asking how moddable the AIs are going to be. Um, there, that's hard to know. Like, there is a scripting system built into the game. You can do a certain amount of scripting. However, there's a limitation in terms of like you don't want to make scripts that are so complicated that um, it can't run on a multiplayer server. So we'll give feedback to people on that. But yeah, ideally, we're going to allow people to mod the things that they want to mod, and we'll be responsive to the community as we go through alpha, uh, and build tools for doing things that people want to do. So we've got 2 mages in this game. I don't know who's in. I don't know if someone wants to speak up. I think that's Brian Bassett, probably. The warrior animations are definitely unfinished. And so, yeah, this is running on a completely different network architecture than any that has been used on ARPGs in the past. It's something that I think we had to do something very different to support modding, real-time modding, collaborative modding, the physics of being able to jump around and push things. I don't think Phil's like you can push mana crystals around. We could flip a switch and let people push people around and monsters and all that stuff. Someone said the mic is muted. Can you double check that you're
Hear me now? Better? Sorry about that.
cool? Uh,
So I was talking about the editor, but yeah, maybe we should go into a dungeon first.
yeah, you guys run around, go into a dungeon, and then we'll do some. Really want to show off sort of the multiplayer editing. I think that part is really cool. Yeah, ultra wide will definitely be supported. Can't though. I think Eric is playing with this massive, crazy monitor that, um, yeah, it's insane. It's pretty funny what you can get. And you can see Phil bringing up the sort of the in-game level editor every once in a while. You will not be able. I think when you're modding, you can do map reveal all secure, but when you're playing a game, I don't think that's gonna. I mean, I guess someone could mod it in as a feature. Yeah, definitely. We'll have warriors that can do leap attacks that leave craters in the ground where they land. There's something actually really amazing about our new network architecture. It's very, very resilient to lag spikes. Like, Phil, when you're playing sort of by yourself in a world, you'll probably never feel a lag spike whatsoever. And even in multiplayer games, things like rubber banding and lag spikes are pretty minimal. You'll see that Phil's been playing on the server, like he was playing on a local server earlier, and he's playing on a remote server now. And you know, you, I at least haven't noticed much in the way of lag so far. But yeah, it should be really good. I don't know if we're going to support multi-monitor. I mean, that's one of those features that you add later. I don't think anyone really, yeah, like will probably be really busy just adding gameplay features and items and all that sort of thing, and just improving the graphics and all that before we get to multi-monitor. But someday, if the game does really well, sure, why not? Um, So people have been questioning about the multiplayer work, and also I guess I'll answer a couple of the questions. In general, we'll have like an official game and official servers, and the characters will be sort of secure on that. And you, as a modder, can create your own server. You can link that server up to other, yeah, your friends, and so you can build mods together and create just a giant MMO world of your own. But you can isolate your economy, so you have full control as the owner of a server, like who can bring what items in or what characters into your mods. So that's how, as the owner of a server, you can ensure the sort of security of your the economy and the security of your mod sort of on your own and the official, in these just really interesting mods, and we want. Sorry. Um, yeah, so I was talking about official mods. Like if people submit mods and they're just really good and we look at them and we decide that we want to add them to the official game world, it's something that we could potentially do in conjunction with the creators of those mods. Um, well, yeah, we fully expect people to be able to make it into MMO worlds, like we said before. Um, you should be able to link up your worlds, create MMO, create your own MMOs. Right now, obviously, this early in development, we only have team members playing right now, and you're not going to see massive numbers of people. But also, we haven't done a ton of multiplayer testing either, so we're still working on it.
Something that this team is really good at is the multiplayer architecture. Peter and Brian, both Brians worked on a lot of these multiplayer games, so we're really proud of our technical capacity in that regard.
Yeah, Brian Fitzgerald, who's on the team, was director of technology for Blizzard ever since. I mean, he was with the original Blizzard since original Warcraft, and was he was the principal lead of the BattleNet team. So there's a lot of server experience on this game. Someone is asking about if you don't care about building and construction. I think you can just play this game as a straight ARPG and go around finding items, which obviously we're not showing and haven't gotten to yet. But building up your character, doing runs and finding, yeah, improving your power. And but one thing that we've talked about doing is like being able to create almost godlike characters that can blast their way through mountains and having a very different experience than your typical ARPG when you're doing a run.
And also, since every game is procedurally generated, it's every time you start a new game world, it's going to be different than the previous world. So there's an element of just discovery and like, well, what's in this world that isn't really in most ARPGs. So yeah, it'll be very interesting. Just interesting and replayable, built to be replayable from the ground up. Without having to tack on arbitrary resets and seasons and campaigns and stuff like that.
Gone into a dungeon yet? I don't think so.
Oh, let's go find a dungeon.
Yeah, definitely. The plan is to, when you create, like when you roll up a new world or you create a new world, that you can change difficulty levels. You'll have like map affixes and things like that that you find in other RPGs to change the character of the world. We've had like great talks about doing things like one of the things that can happen is you can explore and you can find an entire new world, and it can like move and animate and attach to the world, the map that you're exploring now, and it could just be generated on the fly as you like do something in the world. And we've
For
talked
for
about
the
having.
for the just real quick for the folks that are in the game, there's a dungeon on the west side. Let's all meet up there and go in. There we go.
We've talked about creating entire giant necropolises that change the world tonight, and then you have to go in and kill some Lich King in the. Oh no, did we actually get a disconnect?
Yeah.
This always happens in a live demo, right? Like you
Hmm.
show something and you do a test and everything works perfectly and boom, it breaks. So let's go on. Let's answer some questions. Monetization. Do you have a monetization plan yet? Yeah. So what we want to do is let mod creators monetize their mods. And it's sort of like a Roblox model where we sell the game at a box price. Our core game will not have any extra like in-game monetization. And then what we want to do, other than expansions and things like that, but what we want to do is let modders make mods and create, whatever kinds of sort of economy and monetization models that they want to do inside of their mods. And we would take a cut of the earnings, and that's how it would be. Obviously, we're paying for servers and other things like that and just the software. But I think that is actually a pretty good model for us. I don't think it's ready. So Harry Ann asked whether or not we'll be showing this game at the next Game Awards, and I don't think so. Like this is really, really, really early in production, guys. Um,
Well,
it's
next Game
like
Awards is next year at this time, right?
yeah, and maybe we'll see. We'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
I think Phil wants us to show it.
Well,
Maybe.
that's the thing now. You got to promote
Yeah, you got
as
to show
quickly
it.
as possible. A year from now, a lot can happen.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Good point. Yeah, we'll definitely have a long alpha and let people in and be testing things, let modders in early, um, and work on those features. You can definitely. Someone asked whether or not you can generate resilient worlds that you aren't prone to deformation, and there's actually different types of rock, and you can see there's places where you can see in the world. There's actually strata. There's like base rock. There's like rock that crumbles and all sorts of things like that. Different types of earth, and you can give it different armor and hit points and things like that. And oh
Having issues. All that'll
yeah,
be
looks like
all
there's
that'll be scriptable too. You'll be able to make a world that just
yeah.
isn't deformable.
Yeah, just it was that was on the server. You may just have a like there may be something wrong with your connection to the server. I would say just let's just switch back to single player so people can see it. Um, or local server. Um, it's not 100%. It doesn't have to be 100% procedural. Like our core game is going to be a mix of very, very procedural stuff and some set locations. And as a modder, you can. One of the things Phil was saying is it's really cool to be able to look around the world, a procedural world, and then just clip out a portion of it and save it off as a set piece for yourself, and you can edit it and import it into like a mod of yours or whatever. And it's actually a great starting point for making editing stuff.
Yeah. In fact, I can do that for a little bit. Um,
Um, Someone asked about is the world building a part of the core gameplay? And it's really early and we're not 100% sure. Like I think in our core game, we will let people do world building and we'll let people like build towns and cities and do various things like that. But we won't require it. But particularly for this demo, I think we're showing world building because it's what we focused on, what we've built so far in the just in the early days of this team. And core gameplay is something like items and skills and character development. Those are things that we know we can do. Like we have so much ARPG experience that um, we've been willing to sort of put that off so that we can get the terrain deformation and things like that. and the editor. Like obviously, you want to get your editor in the game early, and we have a completely different editing experience. So it's what we've built so far, and it's what what we're showing to people
Something I'd be
in
interested
this
in
particular stream.
getting people's thoughts too. Like, um, like when we're running around and doing this kind of thing, like what I'm doing now. Like, oh, here's a cool area. It's procedurally generated, but wouldn't it be neat if I could do this and I could put this little thing and create a little ruins, a little set piece of ruins, and make it into an encounter area. Um, so our idea with that would be just to walk through a potential scenario here. You're running around in a procedurally generated world. You find an area that looks a little bit interesting, and then your imagination says, well, what if I put a lake over here and there were some ruins, and I want to put a little castle and make a fort and an outpost, and then maybe I should put a spawner here, and all of a sudden I'm creating a really intricate boss fight, and then I could save that all out as a set piece that can get spawned into my world, in the future, or if I really put a lot of time into it, I could sell it, or I could just give it away to folks. Oh, here's a potential thing that can show up in your world. Um, so like that level of creation feels to us pretty like easy and benign, and it's not like, oh, I'm creating a mod and I have to download a scripting engine. I'm just exercising my natural inclination to create something in the world. um and it's not really part of the game loop, but it just sort of happens as like a little side project. So like that's one way that we see that people can just start to sort of dip their toes in the water, um making stuff. But to the question of
Speaking of
like,
water,
oh, speaking of water,
speaking of
yeah,
water,
yeah,
put
let
down,
me pick a pond,
make
yeah.
a pond, make a pond.
um
It's cool.
but like in terms of inside the gameplay, it's like, say I'm out in the world, I'm far away from town, I find a dungeon, it's really, and for whatever reason it's difficult for me to get back to town, or I don't want to, I'll just make a little settlement here. Like it makes sense for me to build a settlement at this specific location. So it's not just where we say the towns are. Like I'm going to build a little settlement, figure out a way to get some NPCs there and a vendor so that, it's quicker for me and my friends to have a town right here. Like to me, that feels super cool, and it feels like a natural extension of, this really open world paradigm, with the ARPGs. So yeah, to the question, like, well, I'd like to throw it back too and say, like, does that sound interesting? Does that kind of level of, you know, I don't want to call it it's not a pure sandbox game, not a survival game, but like it's got some of those elements.
Oh, hey, Max. I just noticed Max has
Max,
joined our chat.
got the whole gang here.
Someone was asking how many people can exist in the world. I mean, we really want to be able to make almost full-scale MMOs. So, having like 100 people on a server or something like that. We don't know. We'll have to see. But theoretically, it should work. And we're going to try to push it as much as we can. You see Phil painting with a water brush now, so he's just filling. He created, it's like building. He created a level terrain, and he's filling it with water. And there's a water simulation. The water flows, um, you know, and uh, and he can fill it with lava, and the water and the lava will interact and things like that. Um, so yeah,
Love making lakes. I've made some really, I've gotten lost in this editor and spent hours making some really beautiful little scenes.
so someone was asking, does the world continue to exist while there's not players around? And that's something, it's actually kind of happened to us in the past where we go into a dungeon and come back and the world is overcome by gloom because we spent too long in the dungeon. So there's the possibility of that happening. Obviously, for performance reasons, we're not going to do it all of the time. But I think for specific game types and things like that, it's a possibility. Um, I think this game, in some ways, will be a live service game because we're going to be supporting modders, creating their mods, and monetizing off of that. And we'll be constantly adding features and improving things, adding monsters. item, whatever, like content, right? Models, animations, and things like that. But also, we are very cognizant of the single player community and people who may not want to connect to a server, and it's something that we have to think about for ourselves and whether or not we want to support that. That's kind of undecided, but it always remains a possibility. Let's see. We haven't done swimming animations yet, but we plan on doing it and climbing, all those cool things. It will definitely have, someone is asking whether or not there'll be instance zones, and the dungeon was an instance zone. We can regenerate those every time you go in. So as a mod creator, you can create instance zones, you can create, and in our core game, there'll be both a mix of open world persistent areas and instance zones that people can go through and always find new content and do runs and things like that. It does turn, I think Phil's trying to make a waterfall now, so you'll get to see it. You'll get to see a waterfall in action. Um, I think that's one of the really cool things that happens.
We need a continual water source. Like I can drain this water and then it'll flow into here. What I usually do, if, when we don't, because we don't quite have that yet, I usually make it sort of look like a waterfall. Put some water down here, but I will show it. I'll show it here.
Someone is saying that we still have you not gone into a dungeon yet? We still
Oh
have
yeah,
not
keep
gone
crashing
into.
here. Let's go to a dungeon.
All right, let's remember to try to do that. But it might be the dungeon that was crashing, so I don't know. We'll see. We went into a dungeon many times in our tests, so I'm not sure why that's happening.
All right, cross your fingers. Dungeon.
So this is an instance dungeon.
Oh, AI back on. I turned off AI while I was modding.
People have asked in terms of the aesthetic whether or not there will be dark areas, sort of gloomy areas, things that match more like sort of the D2 vibe. And I think that's definitely something that we're going to shoot for. We're going to try to make a large variety of sort of aesthetics because with sort of this persistent world, it's always good to be able to have contrast, right? Like you want nice green towns where people can just hang out and be pleasant, and then you want to be able to go into like dark dungeons where evil's completely invested in taking over. So we have areas of gloom, we have dungeons with dark lighting, and we're going to continue to push those boundaries as we go. These dungeons are currently instances. Like, in order to go into an instance, you can't dig into an instance. You have to you have to move through a portal. There's a possibility that we'll be able to create more dungeon-like things that are part of the overworld that can collapse and then you can go into or whatever. But there's always the ability, at least, to portal to different places.
And they're persistent still. Like, everything that I do in the dungeon will get saved. But it's like, yeah, it's apart from the map is what you're getting at, right?
Someone asked how spammable the teleport skill is. Like in general, because of the elevation differences here, like we're gonna want people to have like these very like easy to use movement skills, and I think that'll be a bigger part of the game where all of our classes have cool movement skills that they can use to move around in the map, so that they don't get stuck. Though overall, you don't get stuck very much anyway. I think we spent a long time working on that. Someone asked where the SOJs are. We have yet to do like this is pre alpha. You know, there's not an item system. We haven't done a lot of the skill trees and skill systems yet. These are just like random skills that we've built to be able to just play around in the game. But those are all coming later. Um, it won't be called Stone of Jordan, of course.
Shard of Jordan.
So here you see the dungeons will actually have more elevation. This dungeon is on a procedural generator, and we haven't built in a ton of elevation into it yet, but it'll get a lot more. They'll just
Caught myself on fire.
went over the lava and kind of, yeah. Stone of Rodman. Um, Someone asked about the social aspects of the game, and yeah, definitely social is incredibly important to us. Sort of a lot of our design decisions are centered around making sure that um, the social aspects of the game aren't neglected. Um, Obviously, things like trade and chat and various and things like that help with social. Um, but I think with the collaborative world building, people will be able to get together, build towns, organize in guilds. We've already talked about ways that people can create their own guild mechanics with the scripting system, with the built-in item systems and whatnot, and just extend the functionality of the game. And I think that'll be really cool to see as well. Um, yeah, so someone asked about what happens if you start digging straight down and you haven't had much chance to see it, but there's a dynamic camera system that tilts so that you can see better. It just detects where you are and it can tilt the camera. I don't know if Phil's ready to do that, but he could, in theory, do it.
In general, we try to avoid situations where, and it's one of the big topics of discussions. You know, it's like, well, do we let you do that, or would there be a reason to do that? And you know, there's gameplay reasons why that might be cool. Like you could fall into a cave. Get out of here. Actually, I don't know that dungeon does that. Oh, there it does. Bloop, bloop.
Yeah, so you can see the camera tilt when Phil goes behind a wall. Um, yeah, so someone asked beyond terrain building. I think right now we've shown mostly the sort of the level editor and the terrain editor, but there's actually in this a full-on data editor that lets you change stats for monsters and items and game rules and all sorts of things like that that we will show at some point.
Show some of that here. Kind of cool.
And now you're seeing a bunch of our debug tools, which again, like you rarely get to see, but Phil can just bring up various menus, turn on like little things that let him see what the AIs are thinking and what their plans are. Uh, yeah, you should be able to push goblins into lava and stuff. There's a physics engine attached to this game. Um, yeah, and all this is in client. You don't have to have a separate editor. You know, script editing, everything will be directly inside of the client.
Where's the thing that shows the little thought bubbles?
You turned on the ugly pathing thing. It's in game vars and AI bubbles. It's at the top, AI chat. I think you have it. It's a go up. It should be at
Okay,
the
hold
top,
on. Let
right?
me turn off the. Oh, here's the sim terrain. You can see actually what the server sees the game world as.
Now, right now, this game is built as a fully cross-platform console. We haven't actually run it on console, but we've built everything so that we can very quickly go to a console port, and we're building on an engine that supports cross-platform development. Um, so yeah.
There, he tells what he's doing.
So you can do AI debugging and stuff like that. So because we're building this to support modding, like as a modder, you would be able to have access to tons of these tools, like to debug things, to figure things out, uh, and just to see what's going on inside the internals of the game. Whether it's like stuck monsters, pathing, whatever. I wouldn't play with this on for a long time though, because it's obviously like in-game debugging tools are pretty ugly right now. This dungeon is set to clear. Someone is asking whether or not monsters respawn. In the overworld, we have monsters set to respawn, and in this instance dungeon, they do not. So you can clear this entire dungeon. And sort of the feeling of clearing dungeons is really important. And it's just something that we want to be able to support. If you guys don't have the chat open, Eric Schaefer and various other people, I think Brian Fitzgerald and Colin, there's a lot of people from the team answering questions in chat. So if I don't get to your questions, or Phil doesn't get to your questions, feel free to go check out the chat. You may well find the answer there.
There's currently not loading screens between areas. We're doing everything we can to make it as seamless as possible. Like Peter said, the dungeon is a separate area that you're warping to, but we want to make it so that it doesn't feel that way, and it just feels like you're going into different areas fluidly. The world itself loads as you walk around, and that's our hope. We can keep it as much of. I don't know. What am I trying to say, Peter? We want the overworld to feel as contiguous
Seamless.
as possible.
Yeah,
Seamless and contiguous. Yeah.
We've experimented with giant worlds because there's actually a cheat command which you shouldn't use because we haven't tested on this build, but you can just create another giant procedural generated, and there's different generators which we're not showing, but there's ones that make like dwarf fortress, like lava fortresses and stuff like that, and you can just run it and it'll just create another world alongside the world that you're in, and you can just walk over to it, and it's super cool. Like it'll animate it, and you can see the terrain like just coming, rising up from whatever is below, and yeah, it's super cool, and you can just keep adding to that and creating a larger and larger world as you go. If someone is asking about feedback and suggestions, I would suggest you join either the Discord or the Reddit. There's stuff we're always sort of looking, checking out what people have to say. Difficulty scaling, like again, this game is really in like sort of almost a pre-production, definitely pre-alpha. We plan on having difficulty scaling in terms of not dynamic difficulty scaling, but as you go to different areas, the areas will be of different set levels. More like sort of how Diablo 2 does it. And then as you generate a world for yourself, you can set difficulty parameters there. I think if a modder wanted to make like fully dynamic difficulty scaling or something like that, they could add that in up to depending on their sort of design aesthetics. Yeah, so someone asked, I think I answered this question a little bit earlier, but we are not planning on shipping with cosmetic mods. Like people won't be able to upload their own terrains, at least for, the online multiplayer aspect of this game. And that's a sort of a content moderation issue. Um, but it's something that we ultimately want to be able to support in some way. So in the future, it's something that we think about and plan for as we build this engine. I think Phil's created this giant network of waystones at this point.
Yeah.
Teleport between.
Making a little safe corridor.
Someone asked about hardcore again. Acrolis asked about permadeath hardcore. Yeah, I mean, I love playing hardcore D2. I think with this network model, which is really, really lag tolerant in many ways, I think hardcore will be taken to a level that's really different. And we really want to support cool new hardcore modes. And when I talk about lag tolerant, like this game is fully client server authoritative. It's fully client server. However, it still has the ability to, like when you disconnect in hardcore through lag, to allow you to reconnect at exactly the same time. It's a weird model. It does some sort of time, we call it time travel. But it's interesting stuff. Someone asked about showcasing mods, and yeah, definitely. I think any mature platform is going to need modes that allow people to um, allow us, people to find the mods, the good mods. We'll let people vote on mods, and we'll want to promote mods that people like. Another question was, does the world building also require resources? And oh, did you create that lava level or did you find it? There's a lava
That
level,
was
I
some
think, somewhere attached to
meteor.
this. Yeah, it's a meteor. Okay.
That's TBD, right? I mean, that's probably some level of resource collection and management, but like how
Yeah.
we're doing the building and the mechanics of it is we're really at the systems level right now. We're building the functionality for it, and then we're experimenting with different, what's fun. We want everything to be in support of the ARPG gameplay. Like that's kind of our mantra. It's like, does it help the experience of feeling like you're in an ARPG? And if it doesn't, if it starts to get too in the weeds, that's sort of our weather vane for how we explore these more open-ended features, kind of sandbox elements.
The mode that Phil is playing in, you can't build in the gloom. So like the gloom, takes over, and you can't also get mana. Not that it matters, since Phil is playing in God mode. But there's gameplay aspects of the gloom that affect his gameplay, like in really major ways. Someone is asking about natural catastrophes, tornadoes, tsunamis, major random events, like lava volcanoes, like totally.
Yeah.
We talk about that all the time. We're completely gonna build those types of things into the game.
Yeah, like disease, lava floods. It can rain and just be raining for days, and everything starts flooding, and you got to figure out how to how to solve that. That's the kind of stuff, like, it really does support the ARPG gameplay. Like if you have a dynamic world where you have to, you're halfway through the world and you've discovered a lot of it and you've unlocked a lot of it, then have something that happens at that level, like that's threatening your entire world, then you all of a sudden you have to think about things differently instead of just how am I going to get through the next dungeon. It's like, well, how am I going to save my town?
Yeah, and someone pointed out that, not everyone who plays D2, like obviously, like you're not building in D2, right?
Mhm.
And not everyone who plays ARPGs likes building,
Right.
likes that aspect of the game. So what would you have to say?
Well, what's super fun is, I mean, say, take a game like Valheim, for example. Like, they've got building and crafting, and it's also just, it can just be an adventure game. But like, it's even more fun when you're teaming up with people. We had some people that are more into the building and the stay at home, manage things on the home front, and other people that are out there clearing dungeons and getting the gear and getting the loot. So we think that would be a lot of fun, like having a game where different people can play in different ways. But if you are the type that doesn't want to do any of that, we certainly want to let it just be, hey, just run through the world and play it the way you like to play Diablo 2, and it wouldn't be required. And maybe those are switches or parameters, or just it's just built into the game based on what you do. If you're more the dungeon adventurer type, you can completely do that.
I'll remind people, I think several people didn't come in at the beginning, but if you want to find out more about the game, you want to stay up to Dutch, join our Discord or Reddit. They're both linked from on the Twitch page.
I think we're at about an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to keep talking to people, or keep this running, or maybe just put it on the loading screen and we can talk, or just
Yeah,
do it again another day.
let's do it again another day.
Yeah, do it again another day.
Um,
Yeah, we want to sort of keep people abreast of what we're doing. We want to stay as indie as possible and build it alongside our community and really make something that it's not just our idea of where we want to take things, but it's very near and dear to us to build the kind of game that the community wants to play, that you guys want to play, and you'll be able to put your own stamp on it as well.
Thanks everyone for joining our very first look at the game. It was a nervous thing for us to do, but I think we'll try to keep you abreast of the development, and hope you join our Reddit or our Discord, join the community, um, you know, follow the progress on the game.
Yeah,
I think in the future we really want to show items and other sort of skill trees and things like that.
thank you everybody for your interest and for your good questions, and spread the word. Like Peter said, sign up on our Discord and Reddit and join the community. Yeah, and help us build this thing. We're really excited about it, and we're very excited to be giving folks a first sneak peek. Uh, like Peter said, nervous, but we're also excited to be able to share it with everybody.
And
Yes.
we'll put up the pod to share. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. The pod will go up. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Don't forget to save the video to the channel.
Yeah, it should save. I've got it all set. First time we've done this, but yeah, I'm pretty sure TM.
It still says stream live. I don't know if you want to cut it.
Yeah, I
You
will
should
cut
probably
it.
cut it. Hot mix.